So
Oh.
that was horrible. So anytime I dealt with kids, it left a mark. It left a mark.
Leaving a mark. With over 30 years of service as a police officer for Prophetstown, Bruce Franks had many experiences that left a mark upon him. Some of them quite sad, others inspirational. He shares these moving moments, his best and worst days as a first responder, his reaction to national events like the George Floyd murder, and his adjustment to retirement. This is part 2 of our conversation with Chief Franks.
Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer.
We pick up in part 2 of this interview with Bruce dealing with people who have behaved poorly while under the influence. I think that's powerful. I mean, I'm thinking about your situation where you're dealing with a nasty situation, somebody's strung out, and who knows what they may or may not have done. But you're seeing them at their worst, but you're also knowing that this can get better. This can get better.
It's clearly a disease, and you know what? It just it's an addiction. It's pure and simple. And whether they, people look at him and go, "Oh, he's a druggie," and I'm like, "Well, I understand that, but yet he wasn't. So let's get him back. Let's get him or her, back to where they were before the drug addiction." So.
Awesome.
And, I had a lot of resources and a lot of help with that, too. So that wasn't just me.
Yeah. That stereotype you were portraying is one that's easy to tie into, where you get these criminals and you want to beat them down. And you're telling me you're in the position, I'm going to take you down and I'm going to cuff you and you're going to get a record out of this. But the idea is to get up from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't told too many people or anybody this story, but I'll share it with you because, I'm retired now. But anyway, there was a young man I arrested on a warrant one night and, down and out, didn't have any money. I think it was like $100 bond to get out of jail. And family, kids, I'm not going to be able to get up and go to work tomorrow. I'm going to lose my job, blah, 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 blah. I actually paid his bond. So, it was, I only did that once, but anyway.
You saw something in that individual.
I did. I did. And I think now he's, up and working. I don't know where he's at, up in pipeliner, I think up in northern Montana or somewhere. But
wow. Anyway. He's going to remember that the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And now keep in mind, too, there were some that I tried real hard, but they wouldn't bend or break. And so, we dealt with them a lot, some of those people. So
here's a similar story I've never told. And if I have courage, I'll leave it in the podcast. But I wasn't aware of it at the time. My mom told the story later. But my father, who had a problem with alcohol, was, I assume he was pulled over on a DUI. Mm-hmm. And I guess he must have pleaded his case. My dad's not the kind of guy who would plead his case ordinarily, but he must have in this situation, saying, I got 6 kids and this responsibility. That cop drove him home out in the country there. I think where I live, out there by the Linden Bridge.
Yeah.
And it was, early in the morning, could have been 2:00 in the morning. He knocks on the door and gets my mom out of bed, who's probably worried sick, says, "This guy here says he's got 6 kids. My mom says, "Yeah, he does. Get his ass in bed."
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I had a young man that was signed up, was in the military, he was home on leave, and I think he was 20 years old. He was home on leave, and he was just, he was all drunked up, and he was, ramrodding around town. I was getting complaints on him. I finally got him pulled over. And he's, just drunker than snot, and holy cow. It was right by Eclipse Square there. I pulled him over, and he pulled over, and I said, all right, in my opinion, at 18, you can fight for me and my freedom, but you got to wait till you're 21 to drink. I don't agree with that, but even though you're wrong, you should be going to jail for a DUI. Mm-hmm. I said, lock that car, give me the keys, and get in the back seat of my spot. I'm taking you home. I took him home. I rang the doorbell. I said, this belongs to you, pointing to the lady's grandson. it was. He lived with Grandma when he was back. And I said, here's the keys to his car. If that car moves tonight, I'm taking him to jail. She's like, I guarantee you, Bruce, it won't happen. And sure enough, he came up to me years later and he's like, you remember? I said, I remember that. Thanked me for doing what I did. And he said, because that would have sunk my military career. And I think he retired from the military. If not, he spent 8 to 12 years in there, I think. So,
wow.
Yeah. And I just couldn't do it. So, and
you got to make tough judgment calls. That sounded like that was the right
crazy.
one.
And you know what? He hadn't hurt anybody up until that time. So I'm figuring, okay, if I take control of the situation and we take the keys away, he's got no other vehicle or nothing. So we're good to go.
Awesome. Great story.
Yeah.
Tell me about your best day, an actual day that when you went to bed that night, you're like, wow, that was a great day. I love being a cop.
Yeah. Oh, man. Let's see. That was, I would say, one of them, which I know you want to talk about that. I mean, it was a bad day, but yet I was very proud and very happy to be part of the community that day. And that would be the fire.
Mm-hmm.
I know, but, it sucked and it was horrible. But at the end of the day, I saw this community just overflowing with love and for everyone else. And that made me proud to be a part of the community and be a cop that day.
Great.
It really was. So.
And you were instrumental in saving somebody's life, getting them out of their apartment.
And I've got to pass the credit on to somebody else there, too. Keith Crady was the fire chief at the time, and we were uptown, obviously, and he looked up and down the street, and he's like, Bruce, you see anybody that isn't out of their house yet? Apartment. I said, I don't see Dolores Francis. So I think Erie rolled up. They were coming over to help. And I told him, I said, you're going to go up. You're going to take a left. And it's going to be the last door on the left-hand side down the hallway. And I knocked on her door. And sure enough, she was in bed sleeping.
Dang.
And obviously her building wasn't safe. So we got her out of there just in time. So.
Wow. True first responders.
Yeah. And I credit a lot of people. And there was a lot of heroes that day.
Yeah.
And
I'll probably preface this podcast to say that I'm purposely avoiding not going into great detail in that Prophetstown fire because I hope that someday that I will actually do a series of episodes that just focus on that fire and where I'm going to get back to you and Steve Swanson and other key figures in that.
Yeah, I truly believe that he was right up there at the top and dealing with that fire. So.
Awesome. So that was a great day as far as you feeling good
like
about
I said,
the community.
It was a very bad day for the community, but it made great pride and joy to be a part of it because I saw, again, the outflowing of love and support. I mean, people from the bank, they were, everybody was handing out water bottles and, bottles of water. And it just, okay, here's something to eat. You got, handing out to the firemen and all of us. And it was just totally awesome. So.
Well, it's like sports. Loss shows, it reveals your character. And you saw the character of Prophetstown revealed, and it was a good character.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So, yep. That was like it was a great day in my opinion.
How about your worst day, Bruce?
That one, kids, under 20 and under. I had a young man that was on community service one day. He called me. Well, Mike was on vacation. He was the chief at the time, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, I don't feel good." And he lived just outside of town, down by Big Bend. So I took him home, and 20 minutes later, county gets a call of gunshot. Yeah. So, and I get down there and help him, and here's this young man laying in the barn. He had took his own life. So that was horrible. So anytime I dealt with kids, it left a mark. It left a mark. And, right there at the end, the 3 boys that were killed over by Camp Deco, that still hurts to this day. Even though I wasn't a part of it, I knew every one of them. So, and their parents. So.
Let's talk about those moments that leave marks on you. You in a career of 30 years, you must have had a number of them. How do you not let that give you PTSD? I mean, You've got suicides, you've got people being violent, you got people destroying their lives of drugs, you got people being disrespectful.
Some of those too were older folks in town that you knew all your life, well, your whole career, and then they end up dying, and you find them, and you feel bad, and because you knew them on a personal level. And I'll tell you what, the best answer I can give you, Mr. Nance, is surround yourself with great people that will listen, and I did that. Officers, the mayor, my wife, obviously, great listener, and you just vent. I got it off my chest, and I've dealt with it. That's how you deal with it. That's how I deal with it.
Right.
I talk about it. So.
Oh,
because everybody knows I'm a great talker and love to be at. Anyway.
Let's talk about another recent incident. I heard on the news that in Linden, there was a suspicious character roaming the streets early in the morning, 2-3 a.m., and I think it was a county officer that approached that individual, and that individual pulled a gun on that officer. What did you think of that when you heard about it?
What I heard and know about that, the officer did a great job, obviously, and because somebody could have got hurt and hurt bad there.
Yeah,
it was right there. But there again, split second decision, and he made the right one. I mean, nobody got hurt, nobody got shot, and the gentleman went to jail. So, it just the split second decisions. You can do them right or wrong. Trust me, I've done some wrong ones, but I mean, you learn from those mistakes.
If you live to learn from it.
You live to learn, correct. And, I was fortunate. I never, ever had a gun drawn on me.
Good for
you.
I
drew my gun on people because they were supposedly, had a gun and blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, there was what I can remember part-time. Of course, Mike being Mike, and, I love the man to death. And he just, I was part-time, and, Mike had the vest and everything, and part-time guy, you don't get all that stuff. I had a gun. That's what I had. And a uniform. And we had this, it was up above the one bar in town. Anyway, there's an apartment up there, and there's a young man that had issues and problems, and every weekend we were dealing with, he wanted to take his own life. So we got a call, and we marched up the stairs, this long hallway up the stairs, probably 30, 40 steps going up there. But Mike's like, well, you go first. You're part-time. I'm like, thanks, Mike. Anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
He's like, and I got a couple young kids. So I'm like, well, I don't. I got like 3 at home, but whatever.
Oh, Lord.
So up the steps I went, and this, luckily, grace of God again, in my opinion, he was sleeping in the chair. He woke up, and he had a shotgun sitting next to him, and he reached for it, and I grabbed it first, or Mike did, I can't remember, but yeah, we grabbed it, and then we dealt with him after that. But that was probably the closest time.
Oh my gosh,
I've been my life has been threatened, I guess.
You never know how those things are gonna go sideways on you. Ugh.
And like I said, a lot of times I could not talk my way out of it, but talk them out of it.
Right.
So I always wanted to be a hostage negotiator on the SWAT team.
Yeah,
never got that done. So.
Well, if somebody's holding their own life, they're holding it hostage. So I'd say you had your share of that.
Yeah. It was, like I said, I look back on it, and there's a few things I changed, but most of it is what it is, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
You couldn't have enjoyed calling me to tell me about my sister's suicide.
That was not, no. Like I said, those are the ones you do not like. So. And
I'm thinking, going back to those, how do you get these visions out of your head? I mean, I got a scenario of how that went down, but I wasn't there, and I didn't see her body. I didn't see her the bullet wound and all that entailed. I just saw a body underneath a tarp. And when I saw it, I was angry, and so that was my emotion at the time. But I'm thinking, I've had time now, obviously, to think about, wow, what was it like for a cop to walk in on that? Like, crap. How do you either want to throw up or...
Yeah. My first emotion was toward your mother. I mean, she was very distraught, and I felt horrible for her, and she just kept repeating, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it."
Yeah,
I'm
still
like,
can't believe it.
It is what it is, and it happens, and unfortunately, it does. And she obviously was distraught and took her own life, but it wasn't. Yeah, it's one of those things you got to deal with, and again, that's on the low end of the scale as far as being an officer. Them were the bad moments.
Yeah, right. I appreciate it.
The death notifications would always get to me too. So, I mean, I had a young officer, right? Well, probably 4 years before I retired, and he was just fairly new. And he called me up one night. As I always told my guys, I said, my phone's always on. I don't care what time it is, because I'd rather you call me and we talk it out and figure out our plan of action before you go and do something, and then I can't reverse it. I can't help you.
Right.
So let me know what's going on before you get into it too deep. And he's like, yeah, I got to do a death notification down the street, actually just down the street from me. And he's like, I've never done. I said, stop here, pick me up. I'll go with you. Well, I guess fortunate for us, the man's wife was, I think, a traveling nurse, and she was working up at CGA. So then we got a hold of Sterling PD, and they notified her. So, but yeah, I ended up calling her sister to say, hey, I'm looking for your sister. And she told me, and of course, then it was why, and I had to let her know. And so
those
and
are
then
tough. Well, I know that in my situation that you were thoughtful enough that when I arrived on the scene, you explained to me outside the house what had happened, and then you directed me to the back of the house, saying you may not want to go in the front door, because you go around the back and you'll be able to avoid the scene.
Yeah, the scene.
And I thought that was thoughtful of you.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm always looking out for that, how the family's going to take it and how they're going to react and how they're going to feel. And, it's, suicide in my family has never happened, but I can totally get where everybody's coming from and the feelings they might have. So,
gosh, over 30 years, how many suicides do you think you dealt with?
In 30 years, just a guesstimate, but I bet there was 10 to 12, probably 12.
Yeah.
12. Wow. But and there for a while, we thought there was something in the water in this time. It was crazy. It seemed like every year we had 2 or 3. And that was back in my early days, but
wow. Well,
yeah, people need help and they got to reach out for it.
Well,
but a lot of them are too proud and to even ask. So,
yep. Well, I got to think some of the people that you were able to help move life forward, that they could have ended up in situations like that. So,
oh yes, yeah, and the old saying, that, well, they keep threatening, but they're not going to do it. Well, eventually, one day they will. So you better be paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion.
Right.
They're not talking like that because just to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it's eventually going to happen if you're not paying attention. So.
Hey, let's take this opportunity right here to hear from our sponsors, okay? Brief message coming up.
Around P-Town, it's got the news that you can use. Around P-Town. AroundPtown.com, it's got the scoop with all the poop.
Ben's Barbershop, it's a place I like to stop. Whether it's to get a fancy do or just buzz off my mop, Ben's Barbershop. It's a place I like a lot, and you'd like it too if you did your do at Ben's Barbershop. That's Ben's Barbershop in Morrison, Illinois. Look 'em up on Facebook. Make an appointment. Tell 'em Jimmy I'm a doofus sent you.
Well, let's talk about another dark day in the history of police work. Let's talk about 2014 Minneapolis, the George Floyd murder. What was your reaction when this story became a national headline?
My reaction was, and I think they, obviously had the video out there. I was like, there's some coppers that give the rest of us a bad name. like one bad apple spoils a whole lot. That's kind of was my reaction. And I'm like, you can't do that stuff. And I understand people get out of control and your temper gets worked up, but you're paid to be even keel and do your job and do it the way you were trained to do. My opinion, they didn't do their job correctly.
Yeah. Well,
and then we had all the backlash from that.
Exactly. That was one of my first reactions. I felt sorry for every police officer in the country who's trying to do his or her job as best they can. They're honest, they're empathic, they're trying to protect, serve their communities. And this incident just put a huge-ass black eye on everybody.
And that's just like the recent one in Springfield. That lady was killed, shot by that. I'm like, really, bud? You have pepper spray, you have a taser. He had a pan of boiling water. Really? That doesn't justify a shooting, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, it's to the point now where, I'll be honest, we got to be shot at before we can shoot back.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're CYA and all after that. Once you pull that trigger, you got a CYA.
And tell us what that is.
You got to follow.
I'm sorry. Cover your hind end. I'm sorry.
Cover your end. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
I thought that was some acronym for a police report.
Police term. No, it's just You're always you got to make sure you follow through and do everything your protocols and procedures call for, and
Did you?
But again, body cameras in that situation, is a good thing because you get the real story.
Right. So did you feel a negative impact, and maybe you can speak for the police community in Western Illinois after the George Floyd incident?
The last George Floyd, and before that was Rodney King, and it seems like over the years that the police officers are at the top, and then something like this happens, and we're down below. We sink. It's like a curve.
Yeah.
And then I think better times are coming for officers as long as they're doing their job. They're doing their job correctly, and the world, the United States, whoever, state of Illinois, will look at officers again as, we got to have these, and they're a good thing. It's just like firemen. I tease the firemen, and I'm now a fire department trustee. Anyway, cops and firemen, that was that big thing, and I've always said firemen are America's real heroes, which God bless them. Anybody that's crazy enough to run into a burning building, there's something wrong with them, in my opinion. But anyway, so I'll stand out here and direct traffic.
There you go.
But, we got to have them. We need them. Same way with the EMS. It's just, where would you be without those people?
Absolutely.
And the hours they put in, it's just crazy. As far as first responders in general, a lot of man hours, a lot of hours you're not getting paid to do. And, it just, So God bless them all.
Yes. God bless all our first responders. You talked about saying you got to be crazy to walk into a fire, but on a similar note, like let's say it's a domestic violence situation, you've got to be, your mind's got to be racing. And
I mean, domestic violence, and it's been that way for years. They're the most dangerous situations for officers.
Yeah.
The most dangerous.
You don't
know what you're walking into.
Right.
I mean, I've walked into domestic violence situations, and it's been, the wife will call because, my husband's beating on me and my boyfriend's beating on me. And then you go to arrest the boyfriend, and here comes the wife at you. Wait a minute, I don't want him to go to jail. And then pretty soon I've arrested both on domestic violence. And it's just crazy. I love him. I love him. I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah, do you love the bruises on your face?
Yeah, exactly. It's like sheep or...
Now, doesn't Illinois law require you to arrest the person?
The law states you must arrest.
Yeah.
You must arrest. And so you got to pick one, and, there's ones that I've been to, they call, and then we get there, and, I don't want to sign a complaint. And, I think Mike, back in the day that's one of the first things I learned was without a victim, you can't have a crime. So if they're refusing to be the victim, you got no crime. Right. Even though there's a crime taking place.
Right.
But unless they're willing to get up there and testify against them, you're not going to get a conviction.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how many of those over the years.
Jeez.
I'm like, why would you want to live like this? But people do
question.
it. I think it's that love-hate relationship they got going on. I don't know. That's their business, not mine. But like, holy cow.
So when you walk into a situation like that you know is potentially, well, it already has, the report is that there's violence already occurred and there's potential for a lot more and it could be directed at you. What kind of frame of mind are you in? Are you doing that kind of self-talk? Are you reminding yourself to do this or that?
Oh, yeah, it's going in your head to be aware of your surroundings and pay attention to both your parties. So, I mean, usually I'd get, if, P-Town usually had one guy working and they were usually later at night, domestics, after everybody's drunk up or doped up or whatever else they're doing. And then they get into it and you walking into the situation. And what I tried to do is I usually had, because we work well with the Wayside County Sheriff's Office and surrounding communities. So everybody was coming. And as soon as I got one other car there, the male or female would go with them and separate them. And then we'd get the real stories out of each. And then we'd get together and compare our stories.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on. So, I mean, yeah, your head's on a swivel in domestics, is what I always say.
I'll bet.
Keep your head on a swivel, know what's going on, and you better know where everybody's at. So, and a lot of times the kids were involved, and then your heart goes out to them too.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of them I think most of them, the majority of the domestics I responded to, kids would be calling in.
Mm.
Hey, mom and dad are fighting again, blah, blah, blah. Dad just hit her, and you always feel bad for them. And again, if you're arresting both, then you have to get a hold of DCFS and put these kids in protective custody, as we call it. And, that's a hard thing there. That pulls at your heartstrings because they obviously don't want to leave mom or dad. But in the end, it's better for them at the time.
Yep.
But that was a tough situation, too.
So we've talked about a lot of tough situations. We've talked about a lot of rewarding situations. And you talked about how hard it can be to get somebody to consider becoming a police officer. But what guidance would you have for somebody that was thinking about becoming a police officer? What would you tell them?
Again, your heart's got to be in it and your head's got to be in it. And if there's any hesitance, I guess, or pause, then you need to rethink what you want to do. But there's a lot of rewards. And I used to, it's crazy, but I used to say when, I'd call it a hot call, a good call and blah, blah, blah. Well, a bad call for the person involved, but,
right.
It got your adrenaline up and you'd go and somebody, went to jail or whatever, and you go, this is why I got in the profession. This is what I love. This is what I enjoy. Is following that crime scene and going from start to finish, and boom, you got the end result of getting somebody in jail.
Serving and protecting.
That's the thing that, I like the most. So
we got a kid at Prophetstown High School who's thinking about a career in law enforcement. What would you tell him as far as taking classes or getting prepared to do such a job?
Stay in school. Criminal justice programs are everywhere in college, so I'd recommend those, even though I never had one. But again, I tell people if you want the good high-paying job, you need a bachelor's at least now, if not an associate's, and as far as state police, conservation police. If I had to do over again, I'd probably do that.
Yeah.
I'd try to do that.
That would be interesting.
Because I really enjoy the hunt and the fishing. And they had always said they had all the toys. They have a boat in the summertime. They have a snowmobile in the wintertime. And
yeah.
It was like, wow, you guys got all the cool stuff. You got a friend, Eric Anderson, retired from, I don't know if you know Eric. But
I do.
Conservation. And boy, I think somebody told him once, he's like, wow, you finally found a job where you do less at than the one before. But anyway, he didn't like that comment. So. But no, he was well at that. And I envied him a little bit. I remember he used to, because he had all the keys to Big Ben, and he'd pick me up and we'd go out to Big Ben and we'd go mushroom hunting and do all that good stuff. But anyway.
All right.
And then, you'd back him up on calls and stuff. So
yeah.
And again, that was one of my highlights too. I think is the camaraderie and the brotherhood that you had going on.
So I imagine I want to talk about the life after law enforcement. That's got to be one of the things you're probably missing a little bit of, the daily interactions, the camaraderie, the give and take.
And I'll be honest. I mean, everybody's probably seen my bawling video out there, my last sign off. But anyway,
I didn't.
Oh, you got to take a look. Anyway, it was, I always said I wear my heart on my sleeve. So if you're going to pull up my heartstrings, you're going to see the reaction. But even though I come across as this tough SOB, but anyway, I'm really not. So
you've not done a good job of projecting that so far.
I have not. And whatever, that's fine with me. But yeah, the hardest thing is the first morning I woke up from being retired, I looked out the window and my squad car wasn't there. And it was like, holy cow, this is real. Holy cow. And then for the next month and a half, 2 maybe, I got a scanner still running in my house. Mm-hmm. And I'd hear the calls and I'd get up and I'm like, oh, wait, that ain't me. I don't have to go no more. So, that was hard. But now, I'll be honest, I've slid right into it. And I'm my nephew who runs a lawn and landscape business, Two Rivers Lawn and Landscape. I work for him and mow grass, and I love it. So,
wow,
I absolutely love it. 4 days a week because I said, hey, I'm retired. I got to take Fridays off. So.
Excellent, and you get opportunities to go camping. You just recently went camping, didn't you?
I got a camper, and we do that on the weekends usually. And we just got back last week. I think we're up in South Haven, Michigan. So we had a good time up there with some grandkids and family. So.
And you get to drive your grandchild to school?
Did that this morning. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm sure, as the school year goes on, we'll be doing more of that and picking them up. And,
good for you. I know that's fine. Sometimes the transition can be rough. I mean, you woke up every day with a bunch of keys and wearing a whole bunch of equipment and having a fair amount of responsibility.
And keep in mind, I was asked right out before I retired, hey, you want to come work part-time for me? Hey, the sheriff asked me, do you want to come up and be a bailiff? And I said, you know what? I have no desire to put that uniform back on, but when and if I do, you'll be the first one I call.
Nice.
I mean, right now, I don't want no part of it. I just want to let it, get out of my system and relax and enjoy life. So, and that's what I'm doing.
People ask me when I retired from teaching, are you going to sub? I said, if you see me subbing, I'm probably really hungry. So no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and that may change for you, but I'm glad to hear that the transition's been smooth yet, because there's a certain amount of, I've heard people describe retirement sometimes you feel diminished, and that would certainly be your situation.
No, it was crazy. I mean, I've had more job offers since people knew I was retired. I mean, I've had, a friend of mine, it's a farmer. He's like, hey, you want to come chisel fall for me this fall? And I'm like, well, if I'm done mowing, I'll be there. So
nice.
It's crazy.
Well, good for you.
A friend that does construction wants me because he knows I'm off Fridays. He just texted me this morning, hey, can you work Friday? And I'm like, well, sorry, I'd love to, but I can't because me and the wife and my brother and his son lives down in Kansas City. We're driving down Wednesday. We're leaving. And Thursday night there's a pregame because my wife's a big Kansas City Chiefs fan, and the Chiefs and the Bears are playing in Kansas City next Thursday.
See.
So we're driving down to watch that.
And you had an exciting interview you had to conduct also.
Oh, that was, and I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner because I've enjoyed it.
So have I. That's a great segue to saying thank you for spending over an hour now in conversation.
Yes, anytime. So we get that fire thing going, we'll have another one. So.
Yeah.
Understood. All right. Well, thank you very much, and have a great day.
Well, Bruce, it's been a great hour, and myself and the rest of the community thanks you very sincerely for all the time, the effort that you put into making Prophetstown better.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Take care.
Yep.
Well, we spent some time with Bruce talking about events that left a mark upon him, but we also had a chance to see how he left a mark upon the community of Prophetstown. He contributed significantly to making P-Town a better place to live in a variety of ways. So when you see Bruce on the streets of our fair village, take a moment to thank him for his service, for making a commitment to serve and protect, to wear his badge honorably.
Shut up! And kids, don't forget to be checking in with AroundPtown.com. It's got all the news that you can use. Stay hip, stay classy with AroundPtown.com. And for you fellas that want that hip and classy look, well, then you're going to want to get your butt to Ben's Barbershop chair. That's right, Ben's Barbershop. Look him up on Facebook.com. He's in Morrison. You make an appointment. You're going to love it. If you enjoyed listening to Boomer here, he'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to his podcast so you'd get notifications of when the next episode's coming up. Maybe leave a rating on a review. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe. That helps the podcast grow, and that makes the little fella feel so much better. And if you have any feedback for him, go ahead and contact him at ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Again, that's ttaudioworks@gmail.com. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.